That's it. That's what's up, folks. How is everybody today on this wonderful Sunday, rainy, little bit of chill in the air type of fall day? It is Sunday, October 27th, and it's your boy from Brooklyn, Shannon Ambrosio. And this is another Everything and Nothing podcast. How is everybody out there? Let's see if we can get this thing up and running 100% here, right? Let's hit this button right here. Let's see what's going on right here. You heard? So let's make sure everything is okay. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend and you are doing something that you love, enjoy, and with people you love and enjoy to be with. That's what's up right there. Making a little bit of nerves over here. We're going to check, make sure that we have everything going on the Everything and Nothing podcast. You heard? That's what's up. Do we want to make sure everything is working? Loud and clear. Thomas, mad dog in the house. Mad dog in the house, folks. That's what's up. Thomas was watching the show and enjoyed it, and him and I have become friends on this whole social media thing doing. I love that idea. You know, I talk about that a lot on my podcast about how technology is a good thing. It's not something to be afraid of, and I think a lot of people tend to be afraid of technology and what it does and what it doesn't. But I embrace technology. I love the idea of having this ability to meet people from all over the world at the touch of a button. That you could talk to them, you can converse with them by chatting, and you have that connection. That the distance doesn't make a difference anymore, folks. Not with technology, not with the phones, not with the computers, not with software that's out there now, folks. It's just incredible. But today on this wonderful time of year, and I know everybody gets all nostalgic, and we tend to get a little closer to people this time of year. I got something in my eye. What the hell's going on here? We tend to have this nostalgic feeling. We tend to think about tradition more. We tend to think about our loved ones and our friends a lot more this time of the year. It's the fall time around here in our area, not you folks on the West Coast. And, my heart and my soul goes out to you folks out there in California. You got them fires going again. But today on the Everything and Nothing podcast, it is going to be how to be. So talk about some things that I like to do, the things that mean something to me when it comes to nostalgia and tradition and so on and so forth. And the things that really do make up, the type of person I am. So how to be is basically what the podcast is about today. Is how to be, the way you are, and the things that I enjoy and what I like to do. And everybody knows out there that I absolutely love doing this, right? Talking to people, conversation, getting to know about people, what makes people tick, the things that drive people, their passions, their wants, their desires, the things that make them go, that's pretty cool. So, I happen to really think that the technology advancement today, they really do help a lot. It really is a good thing that we have this ability to keep in touch with people worldwide now. I think it's amazing. I also like the other part of being sociable and actually being physically sociable with, crowds of people and being, around people in conversations. And that's why I love doing the podcast, because it actually brings the best of both worlds together. So I have the ability to, bring people together, and I have the ability to share that experience with everybody out there. Thank goodness to the technology and the advancements that we have now. I mean, basically think about it, this broadcast is a live broadcast from my studio, which is coming out fantastic. And I'm going to flip the camera around a little bit today to show everybody the studio and how well it's coming out. I mean, and that's why this is the Everything and Nothing podcast. I have to lower these a little to look around to see how nice it really is in here now. And it's just fantastic, and if everybody out there, you should be subscribed to my social media channels as well, because I do all these little live feeds on my social media on Instagram and Facebook to give everybody a little insight of what the podcast is going to be about that Sunday, what I'm working on, what I do kind of on a daily basis. I'm not on the social media as frequent as I used to be, but that's because I really like investing my time and my energy in one place now, which is right here on my podcast, on the Everything and Nothing podcast, and sharing it live on YouTube. I slowed down on bringing the audio to the other platforms for now because I have to find somebody that kind of handles that more on a regular basis, and that's the way that has to go. But once that gets moving again, you'll be able to find the podcast on just the audio platforms as well. I mean, the first season, I think the entire first season of my podcast is on Anchor now. And Anchor distributes to Spotify, Apple iTunes. So you can find the Everything. It's the Everything, the letter N, Nothing podcast with Shannon Ambrosio. That you have to remember. So when you type that in, that's what you want to type in so that this way that my podcast comes up. And I think my photo is used as the logo there. So hopefully you remember my face and you click on it and subscribe to my podcast, but also on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to my channel on YouTube at Shannon Ambrosio so that you can catch every Sunday the Everything and Nothing podcast in Everything and Nothing podcast studio. And I absolutely love doing this. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you got your bell rung, bing, bang, and make sure you get that notice when my podcast is coming on or when I'm broadcasting live on YouTube. This is a great thing for me because the expression that I get to do as a kid, I watched the TV show, The Big Blue Marble. Pen pal. See, that's a great one, Thomas. The idea that, you can be pen pals with anybody, basically around the entire world is fantastic. But the idea of me being who I am and the experiences that I've had and the experiences that I continue to grow with as an individual is the reason why I'm doing this, So the idea of, falling in love with production when I had the television show and understanding that, everybody needs a voice, everybody needs to be heard, everybody needs to be seen. And that whole idea of fame and, the grandeur that it brings to only people who we make famous. So that's why I really love the idea of continuing with production and making sure that everybody out there understands that this is all obtainable and, it's accessible to everybody. Everybody has that ability to do this nowadays, and we should all be embracing that. It's a very important part of who we are as a culture, right? Because we tend to take certain people and put them up on pedestals and give people, these titles and these, assuming positions that they need to have because we watch them on television or because so we think they're famous. And in actuality, nowadays with technology and what's going on, anybody can have their own fame and their own fortune, depending on what your reality of fortune is. It doesn't have to be buckets of money. It doesn't have to be, big house, big car, that whole 9 yards. It can be whatever it is that your fortune is. It can be whatever your happiness thinks your fortune is. So, that's just a good example of why I like the idea of technology and doing this and sharing this. But also, it makes up me. It makes up the person I am. I'm genuinely curious about people and the things they do and the things that interest them. And in the same time, I like to share my experiences and things that I enjoy doing on a daily basis. And we know because I'm pretty transparent, not 100%, but pretty transparent with the idea. I love to build things. I love to fix things. I love to invent things. I love cooking. I love, the gym. And when I say this idea of like love, I'm not talking about obsessive love. I'm talking about it brings me happiness. It brings me joy to do these things, to do them on a daily basis or, thereof. Like when I take on a project and I start it and then I finish it, it's much like the studio. So that's a love that I have. That's how I get to be me. I get to take on these projects and work on them until they give me the happiness and fulfillment that, that makes me, happy, the idea of it. So And it changes, I wouldn't say constantly, but it changes. I want to say it changes abruptly. So the idea is that, I kind of go from one thing to the other. I kind of trickle or wiggle my way into something. And then basically, I want to be doing it all the time, getting the satisfaction, learning, hopefully, like I said, getting the ability to teach a little bit to somebody. But it really does broaden and open up my scope of learning. And that's what I enjoy the most. So, reading a book and working physically with my hands and figuring out solutions to problems when it comes to building certain things. So that's how I get to be me. That's how I get to enjoy the things that I like to do. But with the idea of technology, we have the ability to do all these things and showcase them now. So everybody has the ability out there to take the thing that they love to do the most and hopefully become famous in their own way. So if you like, I don't know, carving, wooden bowls, then there's a community for that, and there's a large, you know, open space for people to create these things online for other people to experience for and other people to show interest in. So whereas before, where you wouldn't have access worldwide to people who did that particular thing like you did, now you do. Now you have the technology and the ability to do this if that's what you choose to do. But sometimes you could just take out a bag of bugles. I like bugles. Who else out there likes bugles? Bugles are good. They're like corn chips. They taste a little buttery and they're delicious. That's some of the things that makes up things that I like. Bugles. What's your favorite snack out there? Everybody's got a snack, right? So everybody got a snack. The movie snack. What's the one that you go to? You're like, yo, I'm sitting down. I'm in the house. I need to get my grub on while this movie's playing. So you're like, I'm going in the kitchen, and what am I getting? Me, I'm looking for some kind of crunch, and I'm looking for something that's got to be some hardiness. Antipasto salad. Right here. You got a little provolone in here, a little tomato, salami. But you know what's delicious in here? We have the mini ravioli, raviolate, or raviolini. I think it's raviolini. The salami, got a little spice, olive, salty. But the creaminess in the antipasto salad here with the raviolini. That means the little ones. Those are the little cheese raviolis. And the bite that you get from the red onion. Absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. But cooking and experimenting and doing those things in the kitchen is really how I get a chance to showcase some of my talents and the things that I love to do. And here's the deal. In your kitchen, folks, no jokes. We got Lay's tater chips here. Barbecue cheese jalapeno kettle chips. I'm digging that. Yo, Thomas, this is where me and you are much alike. Black licorice is one of my favorites too. I'm a licorice fan to begin with. But a lot of people don't like the black jelly beans. I love the black jelly beans. It's delicious. And that's why I like Sambuca when I'm drinking. Because Sambuca tastes just like the black licorice. It's delicious. Too sweet. What I did one night on my birthday, when I drank that bottle of Sambuca, no, ridiculous. Whole bottle, Sambuca. But that's how much I like black licorice. So Sambuca tastes good to me straight. That's why I like it. But it's too sweet, and it makes you sick. But always remember, don't ever go anywhere where they're not glad to have you. So if you could see that, the coasters, my son dragged these into the studio because he liked them. He's like, this reminded me of you, Dad. And it says, we're glad you're here. And that's pretty good because I love having guests on here, and I'm always glad when I have people here. So that's a good one for me. My son understood. I guess. I guess. I digress. Here's another helpful hint from your boy from Brooklyn, right? Always drink water. Stay hydrated. It's very, very important. It's good for your body, no matter what. And your boy's body's getting a little round lately. I got to get back to the gym. I slacked for a while. I got tired of it. So let me tell you what makes up me sometimes. The idea that I was getting this whole idea of this whole big vanity thing with the television show. And I'm like, I got to cut that out. I'm really not that vain. You understand what I'm saying? So, I had to stop the whole gym thing for a little while. But I think it's time to get back because I'm starting to get a little heavy. Not that I mind. I love eating. We all know that, right? But that's a helpful hint right there. Stay hydrated at all times. It's good for you. It's good for everything. Your skin, your hair, your nails, the whole shit, your eyesight, your sinuses. We all know I have a sinus problem. So the water really helps. And listen to me. Everybody out there my age, all us older folks, so older, seasoned like a son bitch. So listen to me. Make sure, you have to stay hydrated. It's just the way it is. And as it become a little more seasoned, the idea of drinking more and more water is becoming prevalent, and I don't know why. But all you folks out there, you seasoned folks out there, these things are a misery, right? The cell phones. But don't be harping on your kids so much about using them, right? Because this is their generation. This is what they do. This is communication. It's very important that we accept it. You don't necessarily have to understand it because a lot of people don't. They don't understand the need for it. But the younger generation, this is what they live on. This is how they get all their news. This is how they communicate. This is basically everything to them. So all you seasoned folks out there with children, just listen to me for a minute and they'll be okay. Don't you worry. All right. I'm gonna see what's going on here. So Gary, let's see. Boom. I got you. All right, so I got an email. I got to text something over to make sure it's there, but somebody didn't get it. But let me try this again. All right. Let's see. Because it's crazy, right? Because our generation, and I'm saying this right, as a little seasoned, we're seasoned, right? But when even somebody's just a little bit older than I am, it's even a little more complicated with them with these things because they don't understand how they store things and so on and so forth. But be patient. Be patient with your children because they're just navigating through the world and what it's like nowadays, right? Because for us back in the day, it was, CDs, cassettes, CDs, radio, and we hung out all the time. That's all we wanted to do was be outside and hang out with each other because we were friends. So, this is very important to them. So be easy with them. Be easy with these younger generation because they're just trying to get through it, just like we were. Our parents and grandparents said the same thing to us. Oh, why are you listening to that type of music? Why are you dressing like that? And why do you talk like that? And why and back with us, it was why are you always on the phone? Why are you getting my father's thing was, don't tell nobody to call here at dinner time. He's take the phone off the hook at dinner times. He's a crazy man. But that's what he did. But that was the times, right? So that's how you communicated, right? And then the beepers came out, and it's just like the cell phone, but they weren't as sophisticated, but it's the same idea. We had them on us at all times, and we checked phone messages, and we went home and waited for phone calls, and it's crazy. But and here's another thing: all you young men out there, right, and all you seasoned gentlemen that we all have children. It's very important. I always say this to young men, right, and even some of you young ladies out there, tell your kid, tell your son you should carry a pocket knife. This is the standby. This was given to me by my pops, believe it or not. And he gave it to me as a gift, and it came in a little box and the whole shit. And it's a Swiss Army knife. But I usually carry a knife that's a little bit bigger. What's that happened to it? But I carry a pocket knife with me every day. Even at work, I always carry, a knife in my pocket at work. You could always need one. And not only that, you never know when you're going to need to MacGyver shit out there. So all you dads or you granddads out there, buy your grandsons and buy your sons a pocket knife. When they're old enough and responsible, put a pocket knife in their pocket. You should have one. That's just how it is. That's my feeling on that. You understand what I mean? Thomas Mad Dog, hot cheat. Jesse likes hot Cheetos with sour. Wow. Jesse, I never would have thought of that, but I'm always up for trying something new, right? That's what's up right there. You got to be open for things. That's the truth. Did you see the sign Gary made last week? Big shout out to Gary Calabrese and Paulie Calabrese for being here last week. And I'm going to show you up there. I put a whole, Paulie has a whole wall here now, and it's freaking dope. And I moved the big picture from behind me. It's over the doors now, and it looks great. I made a coat rack out of some plumbing pipes, very industrial looking. It's great. The studio's coming out fantastic. Things are good. I showed the supercomputer before, but as you can see, I have a lot of interest, and I've had a lot of interest in my life. And I really like it because I'm always in for experiencing something, no matter what it is. That's why I'm always taking risks and changing careers and trying something new and doing something different. It's very important to me to stay stimulated. Otherwise, I tend to think about other things, So if I'm not staying stimulated, it's not so much that I'm bored or I don't want to do it. It's just that thing. If I'm not staying stimulated, it's hard for me to concentrate on that thing that I'm doing. So, it's important. It's important for me to stay stimulated with the things I'm learning, doing, want to do, helping to do. It's very, very important. You should all have a wireless speaker. I don't give a shit what anybody says now. It's just this great thing to have. And I absolutely love my speaker. And I want to see, what's going on here. Yeah, let me see what's in there. Let me see. What I have here in my music selection. And that's another important thing, right? So how to be you or how to be is just important, that a reflection of the music you listen to, the books you read, the things, that you keep around you at all times, right? And I'm a big advocate of the ear thing. So, I always have this thing in my ear and people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, listen to me, I'm connected. And I kind of like the idea of having the ability to, not have to do too many things at one time, and I can answer calls and talk to people and work on stuff. And when Paulie was here last week too, we were talking about artists and all that other stuff. And Mom went out and got me this Banksy book. And this is that artist I was talking to you about who does these cool stencil graffiti arts all over the city, and here's one of a rat parachuting down a wall. And to me, that's just great. Banksy's just great. It's fantastic. But it's a great thing, and like I said, books mean a lot to me, and the good thing about technology nowadays is that you have the ability literally to read something or buy something immediately, right? Another great thing about technology. So I can go on Amazon or wherever else I want to go and I can get what I need immediately. I can either get an online book or I can buy it and have it delivered to my house, and delivery happens almost same day now. And we all saw the Hulk thing that my brother gave me. This is another important part of my life. And reading, this is how a lot of my reading skills when I was younger, why I loved the idea of writing so much. My mom's a published poet, and I have one of her poem books in here too. And my son's a screenplay writer, and I love the idea. And the artwork is just amazing. But we were just talking earlier about the whole idea of tradition, right? So this was a tradition for me and my brother growing up. This was the time we spent together, like as brothers, and growing up and being as close as we did. Like the comic book thing really kind of bonded us. It gave us that ability to talk about things and read the same thing, like, because as you get older, some people, your views change, the things you think about change, your reading habits change. My brother stayed with sci-fi and a lot of fiction, a lot of that. So for me, I needed more nonfiction. I need more complete books, how-to books, how to learn. That's where my stimulation came from. It didn't come from the idea of, fictional characters and so on and so forth. I got the enjoyment of reading out of reading philosophy books. Joseph Campbell is my favorite philosopher of all times. And we all know, and anybody who knows the Star Wars trilogy, all of the Star Wars movies were based on writing and teachings of Joseph Campbell. And he spent many, many, many years on the Skywalker Ranch with Lucas, doing the Star Wars and writing the Star Wars movies and books and so on and so forth. And it's all based on Joseph Campbell's teachings and mythology and so on and so forth. And those are the things that intrigue me, right? So, when I wanted to read, and for me, characters didn't need to be fictional. For me, characters needed to be, they needed to be real. They needed to be tangible for me a lot of times. Most of the time. I do like some fiction, but the fiction I enjoy to read is more of like a philosophy, life learning, life lesson, the whole navigation through life stories. Those I don't mind so much, but the idea of having fictional characters just really didn't work for me. I'd rather read a book on, like how to weld. To me, that was okay. This was enjoyable. I could read about something, grasp or take something away from it, and then I can go and apply it. And that's, everybody knows, for me, application is everything. I like the thinking process, but then everybody knows, like, I was a leather guy. So here's a book about whips and whip making. Don't nobody say a thing out there. whips and, whip making. It's another, thing I read and studied for a little while, so it was pretty cool. That's what I got the enjoyment out of reading. And that was, that's important for me. So, these are the things that, man, I'm making a lot of noise today. These are the things that I think are important. And I think these are the things that make up, how I am or how I like to be. So here's another one of my thoughts, right? Everybody out there should know how to read a tape measure. I don't care what anybody says, and not the European way, the American way. So if you live here, you have to know the American way and fractions and decimals and stuff like that. We don't use millimeters here, and in Europe they use millimeter and centimeter. So everybody here, I think it's very important to know how to read a ruler. Very, very important, and you should. The last thing you want to do is go to a furniture store and go to get something, and you're like, it's the number 15 in 2 little lines and 2 or 3 big lines. Listen to me. They're either in they do it 64, 30 seconds. You know how it is. It's 16ths, 8ths. It goes on. It's quarter inch, it's quarters. But listen to me. You should know how to read a tape measure. It's pretty easy. 16, 8, quarter inch. And you should know how to read the rest of them down there. So if it's in 16ths, just remember it's 16 lines in an inch. If it's in eighths, there's 8 lines in an inch, and so on and so forth. And in quarters, there's 4 lines in an inch. So you should know those things. It's very important. I don't care what anybody says. You should teach your kids, and everybody out there who doesn't know how to read a tape measure should learn how to read a tape measure immediately. And according to some of the people I work with, I still don't know how to read a tape measure. Well, we ain't going into that one. I digress. So eat a couple of bugles, sit down one day and learn how to read a friggin' ruler already, will you? Stop with this nonsense. Don't go to a furniture store and tell them it's the number 7 in 4 lines or the number 7 in 3.5 lines. Don't do that. Let's get that out of the way. So remember out there, learn how to read a ruler, carry a pocket knife. Don't read any shitty books, and do not listen to any shitty music out there. I don't care what anybody says. You can never be that avant-garde. So if it's shit music, it's shit music. Don't listen to it. I don't care what you think. That's all I gotta say. And if you don't like any of the crooners, then there's something wrong with you. you gotta like one of them. They were amazing singers. So let's see. I'm gonna figure this out right here real quick, and then we'll see. Your playlist, your music playlist says a lot about your moods, not so much your listening preferences, and people don't realize that. It's not so much about your listening preference, right? But the type of mood you're in when you listen to music is very important. So your music playlist, I think, and the music you like, the one that evokes the most emotion for you, it tells a lot about your mood, what you're, you know, what you're thinking about, and how you're feeling at that moment, right? So I I would say when you go through your playlist, or whatever you're listening to, still, right? Sometimes you can still, man, be listening to cassettes, or every once in a while I'll pop a VCR tape in the VCR machine, or a DVD even, right? I'm going back really far now. VCR. None of these kids even know what that was, right? So now everything's just streamed on your phone or your television. You don't even need any of that equipment anymore. But I still have I have a machine that plays DVDs and VCR tapes. How crazy is that? And I have a couple of VCR tapes that I absolutely love, and I still have, and I'm not getting rid of them. I don't care what anybody says. They were given to me as gifts, or it was a movie that I really enjoyed at the time, and I've watched it numerous times, like Full Metal Jacket. I've watched that movie, man, it's got to be 30 times at least. Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, let's see what else. Weird Science. There's some movies, The Grapes of Wrath, come on. um Rebel Without a Cause. Oh man, I couldn't even tell you. Harvey with Jimmy Stewart. The Christmas one. Come on, It's a Wonderful Life. There are certain things that you should have in your repertoire. Saturday Night Fever, Ruthie's like, there are certain movies you should have in your repertoire, whether it's a tape, a DVD, or whether you bought it online and just have it now. Lost Boys. But there are some movies out there, that everybody you should have, right? So let's see in here. Now, what's funny is that I'm not feeling this today. I'm not feeling this, right? What I'm feeling today, this is what I got today, right? So let's see here. This is one of my favorite songs, right? So there's two groups that I really fell in love with. Alan Stone on my own, because I love his rhythm and his feeling and what he plays in his music. But Twiddle is one of my favorites, and this was given to me by a gentleman named Ben Lewis. Ben Lewis. Let me tell you about Ben Lewis, right? Ben Lewis met me on my first season, my pilots in Texas. He worked for a guy named Jack Perkins. Jack Perkins had the best barbecue spot in Dallas, Texas. It's just incredible. Slow Bone. And I met Ben, and he worked for Jack Perkins at Slow Bone, and he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he fell in love with me and my brother when we filmed that show in his boss's restaurant. And he was like, I'd do anything to go on the road. And so he did. He quit his job. Let me tell you about Ben Lewis. What an inspiration, or what an inspiration. I hope I was an inspiration to him, and he said I was, and I really appreciate that. It really humbles me. So here's a man who then left his job at Slow Bone, went on the road with us, and basically worked for like free as a second hand in the kitchen with me, and worked on the show, and so on and so forth. And he fell in love with being a cook and being a chef, and the idea of what I did, and the show, and all the things that it took to be a chef. And he left that job, went and moved to Colorado, and is now like he's an acclaimed chef. And it's just amazing. And I really applaud that. You have to have, and that's much like how I am. You have to be, or how to be you. And that's it. That's the message. That was the message he sent. And that was the inspiration I gave him, enough to let him know that whatever his passion and whatever his interest and aspirations needed to be, he just needed to see somebody actually doing it, so that he knew that it was possible. And that's the truth. And that's why I like the things. And that's why I like the things that I'm into, and the things I read, and the things I watch, and the music I listen to. Is it makes up how to be who I am, or how to be you. Like that to me is very important. Like reading comic books as a kid, it really gave me the idea that it was okay to try and be a superhero. It didn't necessarily have to be left on paper. So it's really important to me. But these songs were given to me by this gentleman here. And I absolutely love the music. I love the sound. And I know maybe you two may say something about the music, but this was one of my favorites. And it's about a made-up character. And the name of this group is Twiddle. And Twiddle is incredible. And I love the idea of the message in the song. I love the vibe of the music, but it was given to me by somebody. but it really does depict some of my mood, right? And music should do that for you. Music should be that idea that it kind of does something to your soul when you're listening to it, so that you don't, it kind of makes you escape for a little bit, and sometimes we all need that with music, right? Very, very important. But going through certain things, and I think about this a lot when I talk about my podcast, and I talk about the achievements and the things that I'm always very goal oriented. And it, there are certain things that I always think that people should have. And when people ask me questions like, "Oh, so who's your favorite chef?" and who's, who do you like that cooks? And I go, "Man, for me, it's not the celebrity, it's not the fame people, it's not the idea. It's the idea of the basis that people who have done what they've done because they've created out of their own." Puddles. Yes, see? Now, me and Thomas, Puddles is one of my favorites. One of my favorites. He's a new guy I found on YouTube, and you got to listen to him. He has these new, what a great tune, right? He has these renditions of all these different songs that he remakes from famous artists. And it's just absolutely amazing. And I really dig that. I love the reinvention of things, right? So this is one you need in your repertoire. People always ask me about cookbooks. This is it right here. You don't have to buy. You need to read. And that's what the problem is. People don't open up a cookbook until they see a picture they like. And I go, stop wasting your time. This one right here has no pictures, like a couple. But this book right here, The Joy of Cooking, this is the first cookbook that I've ever had. No, the first cookbook I ever had was my mom gave me when I was a kid. But this here, The Joy of Cooking, is so important because it has a lot of the basics. It has a lot of the reasoning why things are the way they are. It has a lot of lessons in here besides the recipes, but it's all basics. That's what everybody should be learning. You should be learning the basics if you want to learn how to cook. And then you take the flavors and tastes that you enjoy the most and you learn to incorporate them in the things you want to eat, like steak, like chicken, like pork chops, like whatever it is, potatoes, vegetables, soups. What a great song. Frankenfoot, he's all alone because he's the only one of his kind. And the only thing he has is his friend and his family. And all he wants to do is go home, to be amongst his friends and his family. Very, very important. And that the idea of the song is that it speaks to the uniqueness of us all and how we are all, so unique. We're all a Frankenfoot. Very, very important. Very, very important. But great song. Great song. Great song. But this is another one of the basics. You want to learn how to cook a little bit? Buy yourself the cookbook that teaches you to cook, not to make a recipe. That's the best helpful hint you'll ever get. And that's why I have very, very few cookbooks on my shelves that are of, what people call famous chefs. Very few. Anthony Bourdain. I have an Anthony Bourdain. I think I have one Emerald. I have one Bobby Flay. I have a couple of them. But the chef I most revere, there's two of them, but the chef I most revere is this man right here. Now, hold on. This right here, you want the best. This is it. This is Thomas Keller right here. And this is the French Laundry. It's the best restaurant there is in the U.S. Hands down. This is it. Number one restaurant. French Laundry. There's nothing else. Thomas Keller is the most acclaimed chef there is. He's the coach for, anybody knows, the Bocuse d'Or, which is an incredible chef competition. And Thomas Keller is the coach and the man that represents the United States team in the Bocuse d'Or, which is like the Olympics of cooking and being a chef. Absolutely incredible, very prestigious. The food is remarkable. But he has a restaurant called the French Laundry, and it's in California, and it's, reservations take like 107 years to get one. And it is pricey, but you probably never taste food better than that unless Ferran Adria opens up another restaurant. There are another couple of chefs that I absolutely love that have restaurants, and we'll talk about that another time. But You want one cookbook that will teach you how to cook. Then you want one cookbook by a chef or a type of food that you absolutely love. And I love French food. I love Italian food too. But I love French food, and I love Thomas Keller because of what he does and the innovation and the whole 9 yards, an American chef, and he's the most acclaimed and one of the most acclaimed in the entire world. So he's just fantastic. So you want one good cookbook that teaches you technique and how to cook and why and the science behind cooking. And then you want 1 to 2 to 3 cookbooks from chefs that you admire and you love that type of food. That's what you need. That's all you need. Those are some basics for you. You know, basic books that you should be reading, that you should and should have already. The Old Man and the Sea, Hemingway, is a must. These are musts. You want to learn about life and certain simplicities of things, of how kind of good and evil go together. Right here, The Prince by Machiavelli. No. You read this one. You read it. You're not going to be able to read the original version, which is, I think, in Latin. That's how old it is. But you want to learn the art of war and deception. This is it. This is it. Did I tell you to get? This is it. Did you see the friggin' sign that Gary made me? Come on. I'm going to show you the artwork over there. Good readings. So here we go. You should know. You should know what an external hard drive is for a computer nowadays. All right, folks. Everybody should know. That's just a helpful hint for you right there. Don't be afraid to eat antipasto, cold antipasto. Very, very important. You should know history from at least 10 years behind you. You should know a couple of the most famous presidents. Don't get caught out on the street looking like a fool. The Catcher in the Rye. Good lesson. That's all I have to say. Read it. We all had to in high school. I don't even think they do that anymore. One of the most influential speakers and thinkers of his time was probably even before his time. Advocate in drug use and alcoholism, but one of the most passionate, probably writers and was Hunter S. Thompson. This is the Rum Diaries. You should read this. Very important. Really good. A lot of movies made about Hunter S. Thompson. He had a great life and did a lot of things. I'm going to end with one of these in here because this was my mom's poetry. This was my mom's book. This was my mom's. You go online and look up for timeless voices. Timeless voices is the book. And Mama's in there. That's Mom's poem there. I'm going to read that. It's going to be great. You guys are going to love it. And then I'm going to do mine. You all know this one. Hickory dickory. No, I can't. Sorry. It's not just doing it today. But you want a great book. It's fiction, but it's a great book. Here is one. It's a must read. You have to read one of Joseph Campbell has a book out there. It's called Life Something. And I forgot the name of it. I'll when I remember next time, I'll let you guys know. It's called Life Something. But this one here, this book had a lot of impact on my thinking process going forward after I read this book. So the idea was this, and this has a lot of pertinence in, why the title of my podcast today and how to be. So this book here, The Story of B. The Story of B is a narrated book. And it's narrated, and as you're reading it, you kind of figure out the message, and the message is that it's not actually a person. It's a gorilla who writes the book, who narrates the book, and his biggest message is, and this really meant a lot to me, and why I do the things I do, and the way I do them now, because that's what drives me so much. And the idea is never my idea of what I want has never changed since I've read this book. So the message behind this book and what I received out of it was, what are you going to leave? Not what are you going to take? Do not be a taker, be a leaver. And a leaver is somebody that leaves something behind for people to remember, for traditions to move forward using those principles, to making sure that there's some kind of legacy for you when you're gone, to make sure that there's something that you leave behind that people are like, that's that thing, So for me, being an inventor, having a patent, having had the opportunity to have a television show, that's footage that will never disappear, never, ever disappear. It'll always be there. The idea that I've learned so many skills and have had the experience to spend so much time with so many different people learning so many different things, right? Thomas's mom taught him how to cook, and is there's just a plethora of people and things that I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to share and leave behind, so that there's something. There's something, your children, they leave something, you leave something for them behind, by giving them the gene pool stays for whatever it's worth, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. But the idea is leaving something behind so that people have something that brings them joy. It's a good deal. It's a good thing. Something that helps somebody, something that helps somebody get through something else because of you. It's, to me, it's kind of an important thing. A little bit. It drives me in being so goal oriented, making sure that I have these things in my mind that I can actually achieve. So I don't have too much disappointment in the way things are happening. But everybody knows out there how important it is for me to share with everybody, so that everybody has this understanding that they all have a voice and they all have a reason for what it is they do and when they do it and how they do it. And to not be embarrassed by it, and not to be so judgmental of other people because they do something different, and for things for you that you do not to be judged by others because they don't understand. So everybody knows out there, my reason is always the same, always the same. And I'm going to leave you with this one from my mom. This one here, it's called Betrayal. Yesterday in the garden, a new bird flew in, I guess to feed. A featherly weightlessness, landing so slightly, but not without notice. Sleek black fur, long whiskers, and white boots, ready to pounce. I thought the bird swift enough, but could not chance it. I waved the bird on. But the endured the glare of betrayal from those penetrating green eyes. Margaret Sullivan. So my mom leaves me always with a message, constantly. And sometimes I get to read it, and sometimes I get to hear it. But everybody out there, my message, and that's every day is a good day. And if you give a smile, you gonna get a smile. So give a bunch of them smiles out there, folks. We all need them. This has been another Everything and Nothing podcast with your boy from Brooklyn, Shannon Ambrosio. And remember, we all have timeless voices. So get out there and be heard. All right. I gotta go. Peace out.